How you doing, guys? Eric from WildWasteland.com. Obviously, there could be some major disaster scenarios. We just looked at even what I would consider a major disaster scenario, even though it's localized, like what's happening in Acapulco. Certainly people in the Middle East are going through other kinds of disaster scenarios. And there's any number of all the stuff we've talked about over the years that could cause you to have to dig into your preps, reasons why the store shelves could go empty, stuff like that. But, in a major permanent way or semi-permanent way or whatever. But I was also talking to someone recently and, making some joke about the apocalypse or something. And I said that, even if the only thing that prepping had ever done for me was allow me to avoid these crazy, lines and short-term panic and stuff that's happened a couple times since, COVID, then it would have totally been worth it. And I don't know about financially, but the point was that was such a relief and such a benefit to be able to avoid those, even when it was just... definitely didn't rise to the level of a SHTF scenario. It certainly was just, at that point, a inconvenience to maybe a major inconvenience, potential risk, but not really a danger, not really a major problem, not a long-term thing. And even then, it was already so worth it. And I think that these type of things are the things that are going to be happening a lot over the next few years, maybe even decade or whatever, as we go through all the crazy turmoil that's happening in the world. I mean, I know that JJ and some other people pointed out that even in crazy scenarios like Iran shutting down the Straits of Hormuz or something somehow, that would cause crazy upheaval, obviously, in financial markets all over the world here. But we do make a lot of oil here. We have a lot of resources. So it's not like we would probably be instantly or even inevitably sent into some kind of economic dirt nap. It's a potential, but that's not some sort of automatic thing. But what would happen is a ton of kind of COVID-like disruptions, all those different types of supply chain disruptions, but more serious, probably last longer, that sort of thing. And that's such a huge benefit with prepping, that you get to weather these things. And, I've talked about so many times about how the worst case scenarios almost are drawn out quasi-disaster scenarios where everything still kind of is up and running, but not really. So you still have to follow all the rules, you still have all the responsibilities, but then you are hit with all these burdens of resource scarcity, high cost, higher risk, higher crime, all that stuff. So, if something does happen with the Middle East conflict that causes oil to go to $300 a barrel or whatever and become drastically restricted supply, it's not like people aren't going to have jobs anymore or have to get to work. And it's not like the oil will disappear. So, if you have your gas cans, 5-gallon gas cans sitting there, and being able to say, I can't fill up this week, I can do that from my preps, that's just going to make your life so much smoother and so much more easy. Or, I need to go home to visit family, and there's a gas station that's out on the way home. And how many people would just be stuck by the side of the road if that were the case? But if you have your gas, then you're good to go. And that applies to pretty much everything, especially if we're talking about dealing with China. And yes, the U.S. is taking over more and more of our own manufacturing, but a lot of stuff, especially stuff that's not that important in a, life or death scenario, but all sorts of just little plastic stuff that you still need, maybe toiletries, chemicals, certainly even stuff like medicine, having that stuff now before any of these potential problems. They almost certainly won't be world-ending problems. They could be, and because of the commonality of disaster, if they are, those of us who have any level of preps are going to be that much farther along on the path to dealing with it than those who have none. But for all the other lower level, and I'm saying low level because I would even consider something like what's happening in Acapulco in general on the total scale of events is a lower level thing just because of how localized it is, even though in that location it's super serious. But my point is that a normal, what I would consider a normal level of prepper kind of preparations would serve you very well there, because you know that no matter how bad this gets, you pretty much only have to make it last for maybe a few months or have a way to get out. And things are going to at least slowly start turning back to normal. And that's going to apply for most of these things. Even in a World War III scenario where, like I said, oil goes to $300 a barrel, relations with China become even more strained to the point that a ton of stuff isn't being shipped, little parts and stuff is just going to be really erratic with availability. If your AC breaks, maybe you won't be able to get the part for 2 months, stuff like that. So having alternative methods for filling in these gaps, I think, is going to be way more important and is going to be the primary way in which we use our preps than having to deal with some major end of the world scenario. Hopefully, but if that scenario ever does come, then we'll be a little bit farther down the road for that as well. But just start thinking about all the normal stuff you have. I mean, that you use every day, and prices are almost certainly going to go up as well. I know that when I flip storage units a lot, I'll buy a whole storage unit, sell the stuff online, and what I'll do with a lot of these smaller items that aren't worth selling individually on eBay or listing on Facebook Marketplace or something like that is I'll just put a batch of stuff together, and there's a lot of buy or trade groups like on Facebook Marketplace where people don't want to buy anything. So you say, here's a bunch of free stuff, and here's a list of anything I will take in trade. And I always put any consumable, toilet paper, paper towels, wipes, Kleenex, dish sponges, dish soap, hand soap, just anything like that that you would know, chlorine for the pool, all this stuff that I use on a daily/monthly basis and will eventually consume because they are consumables, just getting random amounts of it for stuff like maybe some clothing, maybe some stupid little appliance that I don't need, maybe some small piece of furniture, or bunch of dishes since I already have it, stuff like that I'll just trade. And I noticed that originally, a few years ago, you would get so much more. Like if I put something up there that somebody wanted, you would get twice what you could actually sell it for. Like if I could have sold that thing for $20, I might get $40 in paper towels because people would just be like, oh, I have paper towels sitting here. Here's a whole Sam's Club pack or two for whatever that thing is because I want it. And people are starting to pick up on that now and realizing, like, these things are getting expensive, but you can still trade things that you don't need for things that you can stockpile. And I haven't had to buy toilet paper, paper towels, Kleenex, or any of those types of things in a long time. And now it's like a mission where I'm like, I will not buy these things because I can get them for free. But you can do that too to build up your stockpiles. And I manage, and you can also do it in a way that can actually get this stuff for you a lot more cheaply than you would have to go, to go out and buy it. I traded some mini tea set that I got out of a storage unit or something for a giant roll of trash bags that were it was like half a box from Sam's Club, Kirkland or whatever that is. It's Sam's Club or Costco, I don't remember. But it was one of the two rolls in this box. I looked up that box on the for sale. It's like $30. So I got $15 worth of trash bags and a few other things for this thing that I wasn't even going to be able to use and wasn't worth it to sell online. And both people are happy in this scenario too. So look, and this goes back right to what I was saying when I made the video about the Rothschilds liquidating their stuff that's expensive but not necessary, because everything's expensive right now. But there's a lot of stuff that isn't necessary. And if things do get really restricted like I'm talking about from either our own domestic and economic problems or from international issues, a combination of the two most likely, or even any of the other possible scenarios that could happen, that stuff that's really expensive now, a lot of it is just going to go to zero because it's not stuff that people technically need. And stuff like, people can stop using paper towels and whatever, but those are still things that people actually kind of need a lot more than they do just random stuff, and certainly like luxury type items. So being able to trade or sell that stuff now and get more of the stuff that you need, certainly you got to have your food squared away. We know that's a major issue simply because of how important it is for survival and just how crazy the costs are going. But if you want to have a smooth ride as possible through all these hiccups, and more serious than hiccups, all these major events that we're likely to have over the next few years, then having stockpiles of that basic stuff is so important. Just go down the list. Obviously you need your toiletries. Obviously you need your personal hygiene products. You need any sort of clothes items that wear out. Most of us have plenty of clothing, but make sure you have enough stuff like socks, underwear, gloves, and things that might actually wear out. A couple pairs of jeans and stuff will last you a long time if you're not doing some crazy labor. But a lot of that stuff wears out. A lot of it is made overseas, even still. Certainly any medications. I've talked about Jace before. Link is in the description. They can give you a lot more medicines now even than just antibiotics. But certainly antibiotics are something that if there are some hiccups, that stuff is not, I can't find my brand of toothpaste, or I'm going to have to wipe my ass with a phone book now because the toilet paper ran out. If you can't get your antibiotics when you need to, that's potential death sentence. And that goes for a lot of other medications as well. Add to that, obviously, things like ammunition and any sort of self-defense related items. And I don't have to tell you guys this, you're all preppers for the most part, but just make sure you get this stuff squared away, because don't just look at the major scenarios. Even the moderate scenarios. Just look at weathering what's more likely to be a constant stream of BS minor scenarios to moderate scenarios over the next few years. And then remember to replenish when possible too, because we'll get through these hiccups, be able to use our preps to get through these crazy scenarios, avoid the panic lines, avoid the crazy random price spikes, and then you'll see that kind of weird slinky effect happen too, where all of a sudden the stuff will come back on the market eventually. People won't necessarily need it as bad, and maybe you can even get some deals, replenish your stockpiles, things like that. So make sure you got all the bases squared away, and I know you guys do because you've been watching Rule the Wasteland, and you are set, unless you don't have the Rule the Wasteland Survival Fishing Kit. Because if you get this, you are guaranteed to survive the apocalypse or your money back. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you soon.